Okay, my friends, we are starting a new sefer, a new book, the book of Vayikra. And let's talk a little bit, as we usually do, about what's in the parsha, and then we will go to the Haftarah. What's in the parsha?
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'd really like to hear your take on your trip.
Well,
Thank you.
So there was actually a Zoom with the UJA, and that was on Monday at 6 o'clock. I don't know why. Maybe you didn't get that invite. I'm sorry if you didn't. But there was one. And today, Rev. Stephen shared in the daily email a recording of that Zoom. Lance, I don't know if you looked at it.
Yeah, I get the email
Right,
every
so-
day, but I either I didn't notice it or
Yeah.
So
on Monday, I sent out a link to register for it, and today Rev. Stevens sent out a link to so it's 1 hour, and it's more than my voice. There's another 8 rabbis and others who spoke, so I think that you'll get a better overall feel for our trip, actually, if you watch that 1 hour recording, okay? Because if I tried to speak, it would take the whole class probably. I mean, I could do a short summary, but that's not what this class is about. So
okay,
thank you for the question.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, don't be sorry. It's okay. I'm just saying, I don't want.
My understanding is that what you did was extremely important.
It was. Thank you. I really felt that way 100%. I feel was truly impactful, meaningful, amazing, in-depth, and overwhelming in many ways. We got so much information. But if you want to really know about what we came, and we're not making changes there, but we're listening and hearing. So if anybody wants to look at today's daily email, there's a link to the recording. It's 1 hour. I think it's engaging. I don't think you'll be bored in that whole hour. So I want to recommend it. Okay. So yes, regards from Israel, that I agree. Regards, Drishat Shalom and love from Israel, where I was last week. Okay, back to Vayikra. Vayikra is the first time that we hear the word korban. It is the first time that these offerings, Rabbi Sachs doesn't refer to korban as sacrifice, rather as offering. Any thoughts about that? Ted, by the way, are you going to be joined by your partner? No. Okay, so you got to take the center of the screen. Otherwise, it's so confusing. No, just kidding. We miss her, but we're happy to have you. Any thoughts about that it's called korban for the first time here? I'd love to hear your thoughts about that, Ted.
Well, I like the idea that korban means drawing nearer. It's a different thing than sacrifice.
Right.
It's a way of getting near.
Right. A way of getting near comes from the word lehitkarev or karov, meaning a karov mishpacha, by the way, is a relative. So that's a closeness. So the word is used in many ways. So 2 parts so it's just hard to translate into English. When the Jews brought their drawing nearers, right? There's no word for that. No, I mean, I agree with you that maybe speaks of the purpose. And so I was asking actually 2 questions. I realized I conflated them. One is that why might the Torah be using the word korban here? And what do you think of Rabbi Sachs's suggestion that we call it offerings rather than sacrifices? So Ted, you answered, you didn't really respond. You didn't particularly relate to the word offering, but you said you don't like the word sacrifices. That's what I heard from you. Lance, so those 2 questions, yeah.
I think you just subverted and undermined my whole worldview.
I did?
Yeah, well
Well
Rabbi
done.
Sachs.
No, in 1 minute.
I love Rabbi Sachs. That was one of the most interesting comments I've ever heard, because it takes something, sacrifice is something that people really are not thrilled about. The prophets, okay, am I right? The prophets have spoken against sacrifice.
Wait, 1 second. I just want to, we're going to get to that because it's actually in the Haftarah today. I just want to relate. I just want to keep things on track. I have to leave on time. I'm on something at 12. Those 2 questions.
My only point is that as a Kohen, I find this absolutely fascinating, and it gives me a certain sense of good feeling.
Which part?
I feel that the temple and my ancestors were really doing something very positive.
Beautiful.
not killing animals. I mean, Rob Stevens is a vegetarian.
Wait, 1 second.
Not killing
Lance,
animals.
can we just stay on point with the question?
Sorry.
One of them
Sorry.
was about the first time we use the word korban is here in Vayikra.
But
And
Ted,
the second one was the translation of offering as opposed to sacrifice. Those were the two questions.
Well, what is an
What do you
offering?
say about that?
What is an offering?
Something that you give to another person or another being. You tell me. Do you have a better translation?
That's great. You're giving something to the priest, and in return, the priest is blessing you.
No, that's not true. A korban is when you're offering it to God. That is not true that you physically give it to the priest, the kohen, but that's not what a korban is. A korban is between you and God. Sometimes you share it with other people. But anyway, okay, so thank you for those
comments. I'm going to shut up. Thank you.
Okay, yes, Judith.
Yes. Sacrifice suggests you're losing something in order to give. We're offering
nice.
Giving, and that fits with the word karban, that there's a closeness in the fact that you're giving. You're not necessarily losing anything in order to
Nice, right. It's not that you're losing. I mean, you are losing a little bit of money and time. You could say that, but that doesn't feel like sacrifice, right? Just 1 second, Sue. I see you. Right? You're raising your hand just a minute. I'm just like trying to tease that out. What Judith is suggesting that you're not giving up something maybe that's precious to you. That's what sacrifice feels like.
It's not a loss.
It's not a loss. Like, for instance, somebody says, I gave up my career because of that. Feels like sacrifice. Okay, yes, Sue. Did you want to unmute? Unmute. Wait, unmute.
That sacrifice, when you sacrifice, you are giving up something. You may not want to give it up.
Right.
But you're giving it up, as opposed to an offering. This is something that you want to give.
Right.
And
somewhere inside of you want. I agree. Sacrifice is when, I think that's a nice way to say it. That builds on what Judith said, that you're taking something you actually didn't want to give up, and you did it anyway for one reason or another, for health, for money, whatever the reason is, for your child, for your, whatever it is, for your marriage, for your family, or for the country, it doesn't matter. Yes, beautiful. So that's a really good way. I like that. So I agree. That's why sacrifices doesn't feel good to us. When we use the word sacrifice for korban, that makes korban into something you didn't want to do, and you somehow had to give something up and go against what you wanted. So thank you. That's a good way to hone in on it. Somebody asked a question. I don't know, Judy, if you asked it to me directly. So I prefer that comments and questions in general are directed to everybody so that everybody can see them. Otherwise, I just have to read out the question, Judy. So I just would prefer that your questions and comments, if possible, unless it's something private that you need. Okay. It's just better that everybody sees it. Okay.
Right.
Judy, you just wrote you had to share with Rabavi. Okay, sorry, I didn't. I wasn't there. But the word used in Sefer Bereshit, and maybe in Shemot, I don't think about Shemot. The words used are words like mincha, olot,
right,
and zevachim.
Right.
So I'm pointing out that the word korban, which as Ted said right away, this has within it the root karov. Kuf resh bet means lehit karev, to come close. That wasn't used until now.
Right.
So, yeah, thank you, Judy. So I want to ask you, what is the difference between using words like mincha, which is, it's actually used as a gift. I believe that Cain gave a mincha to God. And wait, I have it, 1 second. In other places, who gave, Noach gave olot to God. And Yaakov gave zebachim and also maybe mincha when he came to Esav. So any thoughts about that? Why? Yeah, Judith, what's the difference between all of those?
This is brewing. I'm not sure. I'm like,
yeah.
Here goes.
Please.
Up till now, we're talking about individuals. Individuals are giving a mincha or having a connection with God by doing that. At this point, the Mishkan is built. Hashem is talking about what you do now as a nation.
So, yeah, okay. So first of all, I want to point out, it's really good what you said, Rav, no, what's his name, Rav? Just a minute. Rav Amnon Bazak just got this set of Sfarim from commentaries on the Parsha, the YU book sale. Rav Amnon Bazak points out actually exactly what you said. He says, why is it that only now it flips from being mincha, olot, and zevachim to korbanot? And he says the difference is that now we have a mishkan. Once we have a tabernacle, once we have a mishkan, now korbanot come into play, and playing off of that word karov, coming close. So, okay, so, and then you added a second piece, Judith, so you said two things, or at least two things, that you said this is what God is I think you're right, laying down the rules of the game for the Jews as a nation, even though some of the korbanot, most of them even are for the private person, right? That's why I wasn't sure what you meant. But I think what you meant was God didn't set down these rules until the Mishkan was built. And these are rules as a nation. And that's really beautiful because, and I didn't see anybody say that. So that's really nice. And I read many books on this. And it's a nice way to say it, that until now, these korbanot came because the person was moved to do it, right? Moved to do it. So I'm just putting you on mute, Judy, because I think I have feedback. So Noah.
Rav Raka, I want to say something.
Yes.
Rav Raka?
Yeah, I hear you, Stuart.
Yes. And the car is an offering, but sometimes, but I was saying something. It's a very, very important point about the Makar. The Makar is only what a person could give. If a person can only give based on what he had, a Makar would be a wheat offering, a peace offering. If he could only give it, some people can give more. They would give an animal offering. You see, there are all kinds of offerings. There's a sin offering, there's a peace offering, and people that could only give a wheat offering, that's all they could give. That was good enough. That's all. That's a mikah.
Yes, thank you. So that's true, but I have to give a little bit. I have to narrow that a little bit. It's true what Stuart said. Stuart, I'm just holding that thought for 1 minute because I'm going to get there. Okay. Thank you for saying that. The mincha that you're referring to is a type. If you had a sliding scale of what korban somebody could bring, then the mincha would be the lowest financially. And that's what Stuart's pointing out. But I'm saying something else, that mincha is actually used in two different ways. One of them is used as a gift, and one of them is used as the type of korban that was brought. And by the way, is that everybody following me? Did I leave something out, or is that pretty clear? Oh, I know what I was going to say. I was saying off of what Judah said, is that in the Sefer Bereshit, all those examples, Yaakov, Noach, even Abraham, and Cain, came because the person was moved to do it and not because God prescribed certain laws as a nation. So I think that's great. And I'll get to what you said, Stuart, as well. Actually, let me add it now. It's just that this sliding scale was not available for every single korban. That's what I wanted to say. It's specifically for korbanot where the person is bringing it after sinning in some way. Because if a person is moved to bring a feast to say thank you to God, okay, so then if you don't have the money, you don't do it. Because if the whole point is to share it with your community and make like a communal kiddush, that's what a shlamim is, or a korban todah, Thanksgiving. So then if you can't afford to feed the people around you, then do it privately at home or something. But if it's something that God is saying, this is what you need to do when you sin, then God has to give an ability for everybody to do it. It's not fair to say you have to bring a sheep or goat or whatever else if you can't afford it. Does that make sense to people? So I just wanted to narrow what Stuart suggested. It's true that mincha is a type. It's not for every kind of korban. Okay, that's one thing I wanted to say. Okay.
I want to say something else. Can I say something else?
Okay.
In the Haftarah, God, page 425, he says he is anthropomorphic. he says and that's why he says he feels that he's too much for the people, and the end of the Haftarah of Vayikra
Wait, Stuart, I'm just going to interrupt you because we haven't gotten to the Haftarah yet. So if you could just wait a minute with that thought. We haven't gotten to it yet. We're still laying out the Vayikra, and then we're going to get to the Haftarah, okay?
But he only can give what you can give. That's what.
Very nice. I don't know if that's the message of the Haftarah, but I agree that that's the message, at least for certain types of korbanot in the Parsha. So I want to go back to what we said. We're moving along, hopefully in a logical way, I hope. Why is it that only after the Mishkan was built in this world that it made sense to start prescribing these laws and to switch the word from mincha, zebachim, and olot to korban, meaning, as we said, becoming closer. We're throwing out the word sacrifice. Hopefully we won't use that. What reason would there be? What could you imagine? I really want this to be more of a conversation. This is something that I suggested a few weeks ago, that we turn this into more of a conversation because that's what makes it interesting in my mind. And I hope for you as well. So please, any thoughts about what role does the Mishkan, the tabernacle, play that this would be the turning point that God would now start calling it korbanot? Great question, Judy. I actually have an answer for you about that. Terrific question. I'll relate to it in a moment. Any thoughts about the Mishkan? Yes, Sue.
The physical presence offers a sense of security.
Nice.
Okay, a being, a solid foundation.
Yeah, it adds something tangible.
Right.
Very nice. As a matter of fact, one of the commentaries I read said that, I think he might have said that, or maybe Sivan Rahab Meir, this idea that when you're saying you're sorry or when you're doing something, it helps to do an action in order to concretize. That's a different way of looking at it, by the way. So you were talking about feeling God's presence more tangibly because there's a Mishkan, but there's also an idea that now you're doing it from a different place, that you're doing it for certain reasons, as Judith pointed out, and that you're doing a tangible thing, a physical thing. I have another thought about Mishkan, but first, Ruby, just unmute. Yep.
Unmute.
Yeah, she's working on it.
It would also give you a more specific place to give the statement, and to say it privately, to say it to a friend is one thing, but now you have a place, you have somebody, in a sense, an audience.
Yeah, nice. Even if it's the Kohanim and the Leviim, you're saying? Mm-hmm. Very nice. And God, of course. Perfect. That's really, really nice. 1 second, I can't read yet right now your chat. Anybody else have a thought? So here's something that I heard that I really loved, that God needed to, in order for God to create to give us space in God's world, imagining the whole world, the whole universe, multiverse, whatever you want to call it, is all God's playground, so to speak. In order for us to have a place to live and be, God needed to contract it a bit in order to create a space, create a world, create us. Just as God created a space for us in God's world, we created a space for God in our world by building the Mishkan. Mm-hmm. I just love that idea. And it creates an idea of reciprocity and a way for us to connect through this. So we made them, even though God's the one who told us to make the Mishkan, but we did it. And we continue to do it afterwards with the 2 Batei Mikdash. So that feels like perhaps another reason why, now that we've showed our willingness, and Bnei Israel did bring of all their finery and gold and jewelry, and the artisans, and they really spent time on this shared project. By the way, I'll just address in one sentence what Lance asked me. One of the things I heard in Israel is if Medinat Israel was predicated on persecution, running away from the Shoah, a place to live after we were persecuted, and other countries, that is not so much a part of the younger generation or those that are living now's communal memory running away from. It's been 75 years. Now we need a shared vision going forward and not just running away from something. And that's what the Mishkan did as well. Rabbi Sachs speaks about that as well, that a community, an a nation needs something positive to work on together. So if it's not part of us, well, we're not looking over our shoulder. I mean, yes, there are certainly countries that want to annihilate Israel, but that's not what I'm talking about. We need something positive going forward. So that's what the Mishkan was. And now God is able to, and I really love that, Judith. You really clicked something into place that makes so much sense for me about the individual, and this is coming from God. Okay, so now we have some backdrop for what Vayikra is about. Now, Vayikra is all about bringing korbanot. Has anybody had a chance to look at the Haftarah yet, the Haftarah?
Yes,
Yeah.
I read it.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, good. Yeah, clearly you did because you had something to
He
say.
says, Haftarah, he said he redeems people towards the end, and he said he was sorry. He was sorry
Wait,
that,
don't go to the end yet. No, we're not at the end yet. Let's go according to order. I hold those thoughts, Stuart. I want to hear them. I just want to introduce people to the beginning of the Haftarah. Now, remember what we've said in the past, that Chazal, our sages, chose the Haftarah during a time when they couldn't read Torah. So it would hopefully mirror something that was in the Parsha. So we might imagine that they would have picked a passage, I don't know where that would be, but they might have picked a passage that would be about bringing sacrifices. That's not exactly what the Haftarah is about. I just want to give you that. And I want you to keep in the back of your mind as we go. I don't know if we'll have time to read every pasuk in the Haftarah. You know what? Even before we do that timeout, I want to ask people, what happens today when we don't have korbanot?
pray.
We pray.
We pray.
Milton?
Dominic, pray.
Yep.
Yeah, right. We have like mincha.
Oh, so I want to go back to Judy's question. Thank you. Yep, like mincha, for example, that's one. So
Yes.
I read something really nice, and that is, just a minute. Give me a moment. It is in this book. She mentions that mincha, right? We said a mincha is a gift offering, but in the Parsha, it actually describes what exactly the mincha is. The mincha is, originally mincha was, I'm sorry, what?
A wheat offering.
A flour offering, exactly. But actually it was a little bit of kometz. You know what a kometz is? It's either a pinch or a handful. It was a very, very small amount. Now, again, now sometimes it was given on a sliding scale. Sometimes that's what God said. You have to add a korban mincha. But if a korban mincha is good enough to give to God, think about our relationship with God. This is, by the way, separate from the question of tefillah, but it'll get to it in a minute. When we offer a small thing, just like a little handful, right? A little, I don't know, dough. I don't know what it had. It had beautiful spices like cinnamon. It had oil. It was some sort of a flour, oil. Sorry, what?
Wheat offering.
No, I know it was a wheat offering, but it wasn't wheat. It was flour. I believe it was flour with oil and some aromatic spices like the incense that was brought as well, but a very small amount. So if you were bringing a gift like Yaakov brought to Esav, or like Cain brought to God, or if you were doing it in order to appease, or in order to show the overwhelming bounty of what you feel to this king or this ruler, I don't think that a small offering would be enough. So why is this small offering of mincha? Can you imagine, why is it that that's good enough? What does it show about?
It's a peace offering.
No, actually not a peace offering. This was given as what we're talking about is if somebody sinned in some way. It wasn't always a peace. So I want to ask, 1 second, Stuart, just a minute. I just want to see if somebody else also has an answer. What's the difference between bringing like many, large gifts as opposed to a small offering that was accepted by God? God said, this is good enough for me if you don't have money for something more expensive. But even that was good enough. Shows importance of humility. Oh, nice. Like the small aleph in the first word of Vayikra. Beautiful connection. That's true. That small aleph is beautiful. Ruby.
caught up into the size of the offering itself rather than in the significance if it was a large offering. Maybe the
So-
small offering is more significant because it's more specific, more limited.
And okay, good. More specific, that's fine. I mean, I just want to hone that because in this case, it was meant even for people, let's say, who didn't have money for something more, that they didn't have to. So what do you mean that it was more specific? I just want to hone it.
Only that we can get caught up in the larger.
Nice. So, okay, beautiful. So you're saying instead of getting caught up on how much money and how fancy the animal is, we're focusing on the fact that that person is just giving. Just the fact that that person is giving what he or she can afford. Robert.
That same small handful.
Wait,
would be
Stuart,
available
Robert
to
is
anyone.
speaking. What, say it again?
That same small handful would be available to anyone to give.
Right, exactly. So that's an equalizer. So I want to add a thought here that I thought was very beautiful. When you give a small gift, that's okay. It feels instead of giving to somebody as a way to impress them, it feels more like the kind of gift one gives to someone who's very close to you, not necessarily somebody you need to impress. If you can imagine, like, you know, if you bring, I'm just saying, let's say you bought, I don't know, you're away on a trip and you want to bring something back to your kids or to a good friend or a partner or whoever it is. So you might bring even a keychain with their name on it, right? Something small. I mean, I'm not saying you could buy something expensive. You might bring a bracelet that was made of shells that was handmade, right? It's more, not that you have to impress that person, rather, you're saying to them, even with a small gift, I was thinking of you. You were in my mind. I missed you. I'm just showing you this is what I could afford. This is what I had time for, whatever it is. I care about you. So it's a change in our relationship. If before the Mishkan, perhaps it was we were more ragtag, we weren't a nation, so our relationship with God was different. Now it's almost like God is saying, I have a set relationship with you, even if you can only give me something small. The important thing is that you show me that you care. And what this, oh, I love this idea, Milton, going back to Tfilat Mincha. Mincha is this really short prayer. Sometimes it's so short, we do something called Hecha Kedusha, like if you're working somewhere, you don't have time to take off a lot of time. We don't even do a full repetition of the Shemona Esrei if you're in a minyan. But this really small package is a way of saying to Hashem, I missed you. I care about you. I stopped my workday in the middle of the afternoon or whatever it is I'm doing just to say hello. Even a little gift like that is very, very accepted and loved by God. So that I think
May
is
I say something or something? You know, I have an idea. I say something.
sure, Stuart.
You give a lot of minchas, they add up.
Okay, that's.
One korban.
I don't think
You
that
give a lot
takes
of
away.
minchas.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully the person didn't sin so much that they have to give a lot. But we are focusing on each gift. But thank you. Yes, that is true. It can still add up. Okay. All of this, and I really am appreciating it because I feel like Vayikra opens this whole book of a lot about Kohanim and the service, and it can feel inaccessible. And I'm trying for myself even to find ways to make this more accessible and more meaningful to us. I did actually ask, what do we do today when we don't have korbanot? And I just want to leave that sentence hanging. We don't even have to answer it today. I just want to leave it hanging in the backs of our minds.
If you get many pushkas, then it'll add up. Right?
Yeah, we heard. Yep, 100%, Stuart, 100%. Thank you. Okay, now, Ted, did you want to add?
Yeah, just another slight variation. Rabbi Soloveitchik says that when we pray, the words that we say are not the prayer. The words lead us to the prayer. And the same thing would be true with the korbanot. The korbanot are a way, they lead us to the prayer.
The korbanot lead us to the connection.
To the connection.
Correct, yes. So it's like the tefillot have to be in, oh, that's very nice. So I'm just loving this, thank you. So if we think, so that's a way of explaining why tefillah can be instead of korbanot. If you think of it as the corridor, the opening, the portal into our connection with God. Now, it's hard for me to say, I never bought a korban, so I don't know what that felt like. But at the time, it was very accepted. But now, okay, great. This is all beautiful. And I feel like my own tefillah is going to be more meaningful after this discussion. Now, let me find where I opened. Yep, opened it right there. We don't need to read yes, Lance.
I just want to insert one thing, and I just want to insert Chesed Shel Emet, because according to Chesed Shel Emet, there is
Can you explain what that is in English, please?
Chesed Shel Emet means that you do a kindness for the dead, because the dead have no way of repaying you. There is no quid pro quo.
Right, nice.
And my thought is, based on Rabbi Shai Held, who argues that it is futile to attempt to manipulate God. And I think that we should do whatever we do, and certainly kindness, but we should do it without any expectation whatsoever that what we do is going to affect anything.
Wait, I'm trying to understand. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just trying to understand what's the connection to the korbanot, or did I miss that?
Well, but the korbanot is, in most cases, an attempt to get something in return for giving a gift.
I don't think so. I don't think that's what the korbanot were for. You mean to get God's forgiveness? Is that what you mean? But that is what they were for, to get close to God. I don't think those were.
Okay, but
I don't think I would describe them as a chesed. I wouldn't. Maybe you would.
I wouldn't consider, as Cohen, of course, I'm undermining myself, but I wouldn't consider giving a gift to God for any reason whatsoever to be what God really wants. What God really wants is for us to take care of each other and to do so without any expectation of reward. In other words, what I do, I can quote something, I won't do it, but basically I do it for altruistically.
I understand, but I'm just saying I don't think that korbanot are about chesed. That's not what it feels. I mean, it's a beautiful thought what you're doing, what you're saying. I'm not disagreeing. I just don't think it doesn't have to do with korbanot. So let's focus back on korbanot.
Rabbi Bracha, the thing is, you got a whole system here of sacrifices, and then the rabbis create another system of prayer to take the place of the synagogue takes the place of the Mishkan. And what I'm suggesting is kind of radical and heretical, and that is you don't need any of this. A prayer in a forest is just as good as a prayer in a synagogue. That's the Baal Shem Tov. And I think the meaning of that is that it's if you observe the whole 613 commandments and that makes you a good person, great. If you don't observe any of the 630, kill people, that's 700. But anyway, if you don't do any of that, it's still great if you are moral. If you
all right. No, I hear that, Lance, and I'm not disagreeing. I just want to focus back in on our topic.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay. At the beginning, so first of all, Yeshayahu tends Isaiah. First of all, it's divided into a few parts. There are the prophecies where he's yelling. I don't know what they're called, of rebuke, I guess. There are prophecies of consolation. This is from the prophecies of consolation. And it's similar to what Yeshayahu does, where first Yeshayahu rebukes and then comes back to something positive at the end.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can get some feeling of that.
But he says, I want to say something else. He says, the first time he says, I am anthropomorphic. He's like a person. I can't be. He said, I'm a person. He says, what does he say? I'm a person. He says he admits that he's a person. He's a person. He says it brought me no sweet came with money. Heavily was sacrificed. But he's a person. He says he admits. He says he's bold anthropomorphism on page 427 in Santino, 425 in Santino. He admits he's a person. So he's talking. He always was talking. When Sinai, he talked. When he walked to Moshe, he talked. When he talked to Abraham, he talked. Right. And I want to say another very important question. Did I answer your question? Another question?
I'm sorry, Stuart, I'm not quite following, but I understand you talk about anthropomorphism. Can we just start reading?
Because why take 900 years between Noah and Abraham to find somebody that was good enough?
Wait, Stuart, I really would like, it's 11:40, and I really would like to get to the Haftarah, okay? Can we leave those, let's just try to focus.
He says that in Haftarah.
Okay, we might not get to it. Okay, we might not get to that.
Second page Haftarah.
Okay, we might not get to that pasuk. Let's just start reading a little bit from the Haftarah. The beginning is where it starts with this pasuk, no, actually with 21, that God is saying, wait a minute, the people I formed for myself, this has to do with what Judah said, that I created an Am, a nation. I did it in order for one reason, that they may declare my praise. Or at least in this particular instance, this is the reason that God is giving. And they're actually not doing that. They are not doing that. The whole Haftarah actually speaks about the fact that the Jews were complaining about bringing korbanot, but they had no trouble finding money to create idols. Lo heveta li se'olatecha. You have not brought me your sheep for burnt offerings. Uzbachech. Yeah. Somebody have a comment? No? Okay.
God is going to stick
Yes,
with them.
please. What?
God is going to forgive them.
I know, right? Like, the end, spoiler alert. God is going to forgive. But does that mean that you shouldn't chastise? What are you thinking, Sue?
I don't know. I have a problem with this.
Which part?
God is telling them how they've sinned, and he says, but you're going to be okay. I'm going to protect you. But then later on, they're going to be destroyed. So this is a temporary situation.
Yeah. So you're saying when you put it in the context of the whole of the book or the history, what is troubling you? Not that I necessarily have an answer, but please say what.
Okay, that God is reassuring them that he cares for them, and they're going to be he's with them, and I am the first and I am the last, and and he believes that he's telling the future for the people, and that they're going to be okay, but they're not going to be okay.
Oh, that's the part that troubles you, that God seems to say at the end, you're going to be okay, but actually it doesn't feel like God really upheld that promise. Is that what you're saying? That's the part that troubles you?
Right. Well, because they're praying to idols, but and not to God, but it's like God is going to accommodate them anyway.
So which part bothers you, or both? The fact that God's willing to forgive, or the fact that it doesn't feel like that really there was total forgiveness?
Right, both of them.
Yeah. So Judy wrote thank you. So I think it's okay to say this feels hard. It sounds like parenting that could lead to Am Yisrael schizophrenia. That's an interesting comment. Thank you, Judy. As I said, I don't know that I have answers, but I'm appreciating a place to voice our thoughts. And I think that's important too. We need to have a place to say, okay, we have to read from the prophets, but do the prophets really make sense? First chastising, then saying it'll be okay. So wait a second, should they forgive? I mean, I see that as God saying underneath it all, I am never going to sever my relationship with Israel. I'm never going to sever. I mean, I think one of the parts that's hard for me is I don't understand idol worship. So I don't know why is it that B'nai Israel were always pulled to worship idols. I don't really get that. It just doesn't mean anything unless, I guess maybe if you're brought up that way, or all the nations surrounding them were like that, and God is not tangible, maybe that's why. But I do appreciate when Yirmiyahu yells at the Jews and says, You're terrible at social equality. You are treating your slaves terribly. You should have let them go years ago. They finally let them go, and then that day they bring them back. That I get. That is awful to treat people like that. And the way they didn't treat each other well. The thing about idol worship, I just don't understand it because I don't have any yearning to worship an idol. Yes, Susan.
They were tangible. It was something that they could, some that they could pick up and hold,
Yeah.
others that they can bow down to. It was something that they could see and touch and feel.
Right.
And that's what, what was the attraction.
Yeah. Okay. Lance, I'm just going to ask Helen to speak because you've spoken already. Yes, Helen.
Regarding idol worship, I heard it was either
Sorry,
Rabbi
regarding what? Regarding what?
idol
worship.
regarding
Yeah.
idol worship. It was either Rabbi Foreman or somebody in his organization indicated that at least the golden calf was a substitute, not for Hashem, but for Moshe.
Right. Nice. Yes, that's important. Yep. Beautiful. Lance, I want to give you room to speak, but you have spoken a lot and I would love to get to Haftarah. So is it something very quick?
No.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's go a little bit into the, yes, somebody else wanted to say something? No? Okay. Go a little bit into the Haftarah. We won't have time to read, and that's okay because it's more about we don't have to read every pasuk. It's more about the themes and the thoughts of the Haftarah that I like to get to. And I am really appreciating that we're having a conversation today and it's not just reading it and hearing about it. So God continues and says that you have wearied me with your iniquities. Here's something really interesting. Anochi, Anochi hu mocheh psha'echa lema'ani v'chatotecha lo ezkor. Does anybody know it is I, for my own sake, wipe your transgressions away and remember your sins no more? Anybody have an idea of what that reminds you of? Does it remind you of any sort of tefillah? When do we say this? When, Helen?
13 attributes.
Yeah, and on Yom Kippur, we say it over and over and over again. So it is a reminder of Yom Kippur, which is a day of forgiveness. It's just that I just wanted to point that out to you, that the language reminds us of something else and connects. Okay, just want to see where. Okay, so that was the whole chastisement happened here. Are people reading? Your earlier ancestors sinned, your spokesman transgressed against me. So I profaned Achalel Sarei Kodesh, the holy princes. Where is that from? My holy, okay, no, that's something else. I abandoned Jacob to prescription. I don't know what is emendation. Oh, it's just a different way of describing it, what it means in English, that it means insult, and Israel to mockery. What God is, okay, what I need to find is the pasuk, because there is a pasuk that says, here's what I want to talk about. Here now, okay, here's where God is now going to say that I'm going to always be with you. I will pour my spirit on your offspring, my blessing on your posterity. They shall sprout like grass. So it's actually very upbeat. One shall say, I am the Lord's. Another use the name Jacob. Another shall mark his arm of the Lord, adopt the name Israel. Who said, I am the first and the last? This is what somebody mentioned that. Ani rishon v'ani acharon. Mibiladai ein Elohim. That's also something that we're very familiar with. There's
verse 6. I am the first, I am the last.
Yep. So what God, okay. So here's the question. Here's what I want to ask this group now. So do you see the flow? First, God is saying, wait, you didn't bring me sacrifices, but I promise you that it will be okay. All you have to do is give me a little bit. How does that connect well to our Parsha? Obviously it connects because of the korbanot that you didn't bring korbanot. But Vayikra is all about the different kinds of korbanot that we should bring. So why do we think that our sages, this is what I wanted to ask this group, why did our sages bring Dafka this Haftarah as a balance for Vayikra, for delineating all the different korbanot? Any thoughts? Why was this one brought? And I want to remind us that korban is from the word karov. Any thoughts? Yes, Judith.
It's karban from the word karov. So the parsha is telling us technically all the things to do to be close to Hashem. And now, many, many years later, when times are terrible,
Yeah.
and people have sinned, and it feels like Hashem disappeared, they're bringing in something that says Hashem will be with you no matter what happened in the past.
Yeah, but thank you. But so that, I think that's what I was trying to get to, that if we can look underneath, let's look underneath. There's the Vayikra is all about the, it's not dry, but or you could call it dry, but it's a listing of all the different korbanot, when you bring them, what you do. So it's it's a list of the rules and guidelines, including that there's a sliding scale. And then if Chazal, our sages, are bringing dafka, a perek, where the first psukim are about abandoning God and going away, then what we want to take with us is that God wants the closeness with us. And it's almost like God is saying, you know what, you're not coming to me, I'll come to you, which as a parent, I really appreciate. Sometimes our kids, I don't know if everybody has kids, but our kids, they distance themselves from us. And often it's we as parents who need to make that extra step to make sure that they know we want to still be in relationship with you, to love you. And that's, I think, the message that I'd like to take from the Parsha versus the Haftarah. The fact that God wants a way for us to be close, and it's almost like a little bit what Stu was saying, anthropomorphic, that God is like a person who's saddened and disappointed that the Jewish people distance themselves. So we have a few more minutes, but I wanted to think about those thoughts and shift it a little to our lives now. Let's take a few moments to say, what do we do today? And you don't have to say tefillah. You can, but your answer doesn't have to be tefillah. I know tefillah is instead of korbanot, but I'd like to expand that and say, what are we taking from this? How do we feel close to God? Because if that's the message, is that God wants the closeness, maybe we have different ways of feeling close to God. Maybe it's not always about prayer. Or maybe it's about what Ted said, like that the prayer is just the corridor that leads us to feeling close to God. So I would like to challenge and invite this group in the same sense. How do we feel close to God? When do you feel close to God? What can you do that makes you feel close to God? That's what I'd like to leave us. I'd like to have a few minutes discussion about that.
Mhm.
Yes, Milton.
When you help other people, doing kindness,
Right.
Yes.
Gemilas Chesed.
Yeah. Yeah, Gemilut Chasadim. I love, see, Lance, your words have come through in spite of everything. Yes, Sue. Thank you, Milton. Yes, Sue.
Thank you.
Sue.
Caring for others and going out of your way to help others.
Wow. I get goosebumps. Yeah. Why does that make it? Can I just ask you, why does that? 1 second, Stuart. 1 second. There's a few people on the way, Stuart, just a minute. Sue, can you articulate, why does that make you feel close to God?
I can't express it. It makes me feel good.
Yeah, and a good person, right?
Good.
Yeah, and we're emulating God's values, hopefully, what God might. 1 second, Stuart. We have Judy and Ruby and then Stuart. Yes, Judy Stiglitz.
Okay. The whole idea of Kedusha, Kedushat Zman, Kedushat Makom.
Can you say that in English for those who don't know Hebrew?
Yes, about how we can become holy, whether it's holiness of time like Shabbat, the Chagim, and also holiness of place, Beit Knesset, Eretz Yisrael, all kinds of different ways of, becoming more holy
Nice.
And holy in terms of doing mitzvot.
Yep. So mitzvot, so what you're saying, I'm hearing, there's ben adam l'chavero, between man or people, and ben adam l'makom, which is the horizontal and the vertical. Beautiful. Thank you. That also can make us feel close to God. I know so many people say when they go to Israel or even watch programs about Israel, they feel closer to God. Yes, Ruby.
I feel closer to God when I can also appreciate what I have emotionally, physically, thankful for family, for friends, for community.
Beautiful. Yeah. Goosebumps. Yes, beautiful. Thank you. That's really a beautiful thought. Stuart, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes. There's a thing called the Rabbi's Discretionary Fund. if everybody gave something to the rabbi's discretionary fund, it would add up to a lot. Okay, a lot of
Nice.
people that get
Stuart is a regular donor to the Rabbi's Discretionary Fund. He's an amazing person. Thank you for saying that. That is so sweet. I love that. And that's true. It's another way to help. And as Stuart pointed out, somebody could give, and I don't know, I'm not saying I know how much you give because I don't, but I know that you give regularly, and somebody could give $18. And then a half a year later, $18, but it adds up. And the point is not the amount you give, but the fact that you want to give and you're willing to give. Very nice, very good. That's a beautiful way to compare to the Korban Mincha and what we were talking about, that it's sometimes the small package can be good as well. I love that. That's really beautiful. Lance,
They
did
all
you,
did it. They all did it. And it would add up.
in the old days, what? I'm sorry, I don't hear you.
If everybody gets the discretionary fund, just a certain amount would add up.
It always adds up. It always adds up. Well, however often you can, and you know that it's going to people who can really use it, or the free Seder.
That's the idea.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Stuart. Another short thoughts, Lance?
Oh, okay. Paul Tillich, the Protestant existential theologian.
Wait, I just want to know if it's going to answer the question how we feel closer to God.
I'm going to give you his quote.
Okay, great.
Okay, Paul Tillich says that God is closer to us than we are as close to God. In other words, God is within us, without us. We are embedded in God.
Nice. That's beautiful. Wow. That's kind of cool to think you're walking with God all the time. I love that. Okay, I love that.
Right now, right here.
Okay, everybody in this group, you have filled my heart, and I really appreciate it. Robert, Moshe, did you want to add something? No, it's okay. So let me just recap what we said, the ways that people in this group feel closer to God. And they were all a little bit different. It can be by offering money. Yes, Carol.
Yes, hi, I'm on the phone.
Yeah.
When you make a connection to another person or develop a special friendship, I think that you also feel closer to God.
I love it. Yeah.
That's to you.
Beautiful. And that's the feeling of reciprocity is also beautiful. Great. So all of these thoughts, feeling God's presence within us is part of us, giving money when you can that can add up, doing deeds, or even just connecting to another person, connecting with Shabbat, feeling the beauty of Shabbat, Eretz Yisrael, that beauty, I would say Kedusha, the holiness, as Judy pointed out, of time, of location, of space. Maybe there's another one that I'm missing. And I just want to thank everybody for, so this is more the new format that I was hoping to do rather than just sitting and reading each pasuk. I hope that this is more meaningful to people to have a discussion and think about how it touches our lives. For me, this was more beautiful. You're all welcome to write me and tell me if this was or wasn't good for you. But I really am trying to find ways, because often, as Sue said, it's hard to hear the prophets. They don't always speak to us. It makes sense. It doesn't make sense. But how can we connect it with our own lives? That's the way I'd like to have these haftarot going forward, this shiur, this class every week. So thank you, everybody, for attending. And next week, Bezrat Hashem, we will have this class. And then for 2 weeks, it'll be Erev Pesach and then Pesach. So those days we won't be able to have it. And so sending love to everybody. And I hope to see you next week, if not before. Be well. Take good care.
You're going to be in shul this afternoon?
This afternoon, no, I'm coming tomorrow. Who asked?
Okay.
Sorry, are you going to be there?